Hey there, Business for Unicorns podcast listeners. This is Mark, and I'm here to tell you about an awesome free resource on businessforunicorns.com. If you ever find yourself feeling frustrated with your training gym because you know that there are all sorts of things you could work on, but you're not really sure how to prioritize, you don't know what's the most important thing to work on or what order you should be tackling your priorities, well, now is the time to go to businessforunicorns.com, click the button, and fill out our free self-assessment. With the Ultimate Training Gym Owner Report Card, you will gain immediate clarity on just where to be focusing your attention to create more positive impact on your community, to drive more revenue and take home income, and to do it all with less stress and more peace of mind. So go to businessofunicorns.com, click the button, fill out that free self-assessment, and start building a business and life you love today.
Hello, fitness business nerds. What's up? Welcome to another episode of the Business for Unicorns podcast. Today, I'm really excited because we're doing another roundtable discussion with some of my friends from Unicorn Society. And today I'm talking with Andy and Renee, who are going to introduce themselves in just a second. And the topic we're talking about today is increasing your rates. It's something that we all should do in our gyms. And sometimes it's hard for us. Sometimes it's hard to just, ask our clients to spend a couple more bucks per month. And we're going to talk about how both Renee and Andy have battled those inner demons, battled those communications in those emails to really make some changes and increase their rates in meaningful ways that helps their bottom line. And so if that's something you struggle with today, my friends, keep on listening. But let me welcome to the stage, Renee and Andy. Welcome, my friends. Thanks so much for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Hi.
Hi, I'm so glad you both agreed to do this. Thank you so much. So I'm just going to dive in. You both know the topic we're talking about is increasing your rates. For some of us, that means just increasing your existing rates. For some of us, that meant switching how you bill people, maybe moving from monthly billing to bi-weekly or every 4-week billing. So whatever your experience has been, I want to hear about it and share it with our listeners today. So Andy, I'm going to start with you. Just talk to me a little bit about, what has your experience been with the most recent rate change that you had? And start from before you changed it. What was the business like before that?
So we do small group.
I'm sorry, Andy. I totally forgot. I said you were going to introduce yourselves, and I didn't ask you to do that yet. I'm a terrible podcast host, but I'm good at other things. So yeah, Andy, introduce yourself first, and then we'll get into it.
Michael, you are forgiven. It's the Monday after the holiday, the long holiday weekend.
It's
true. So my business is called Plank Fitness. We are a small group personal training facility out of Delaware County, Pennsylvania. You guys know it as Delco. We're 15 minutes outside of Philadelphia, and that's skinny.
That's it. Amazing. Thanks, Andy. Yeah. Renee, tell us about you real quick.
Hi, I'm Renee, and I'm a professional runner who opened up a sports rehab and performance facility in Bend, Oregon. And we specialize in small group training, rehab, correctional exercise, and sport performance.
Amazing. And Renee, a fun fact about Renee, also has a giant bus that she travels around in for her running, and it has a barbell rack in it and other accoutrements for working out. So yeah, go follow Renee on social media and check out our bus. We'll get back to you in a second, Renee. Andy, tell me about the question I asked you 30 seconds ago.
Life before the increase?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So this is like pre-pandemic. I started in 2017 and kind of hit the ground running. I had about a year and a half of managerial experience in the fitness industry before that. So opening my own doors, the systems and the processes weren't quite there. And, the back end, looking at my finances and keeping track of everything, it's just, I wasn't doing a good job. And I'll admit that. I'm more than happy to talk about that today. I came in ready to just throw myself under the bus in that sense. But, it wasn't good. I was paying, I had 4 coaches and I was not on the floor as much as I should have been. So my eyes were kind of off the business. And in my eyes, the more time off the floor, the more time, keeping eyes on the back end, which I kind of really wasn't doing great at all then anyway. So, my expenses were a lot. And 2 gyms later, after 6 months, we just kind of grew, but really didn't have direction. It was just kind of like the fire was lit. Here we go. And that's kind of how every aspect was on the back end. Now on the front end, which is what I'm really good at, is like the community and writing kick-ass workouts and stuff like that. So from like a member looking in point of view, no one really saw that, but from back end kind of view, it was like a big dumpster fire.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then,
yeah. I'll just say this, Andy, that you know this because we've talked about this before, but you're not alone. I think a lot of people who
Yeah.
get into our business and run training gyms, they get into it because they're obsessed with the front end work, right? They're obsessed with being with clients and creating programmings and training. They didn't get into it because they love spreadsheets and processing and finances and software. And so, I think your experience, I think a lot of listeners will resonate with. But yeah, keep on going. So then, what happened next?
yeah, so sorry, I'm having problems. This is my first time with my Beats here.
Oh,
And
that's
they
okay.
just got on for me. So this is computer sound. So sorry if there's any glitches in my sound.
That's okay. We can still hear you.
Okay, great. So yeah, the pandemic happened, and for a lot of business owners, and even for me, yeah, it was terrible. We lost a lot of members and everything. You guys know. If you're a gym owner out there, you know what happened.
Yeah, for sure.
But it was also a blessing in disguise. You got to just pull back completely and look at your business on pause for the first time since I opened in 2017 and didn't stop running. So I was really able to pick apart everything. And one of the biggest things was I closed the doors to one of the gyms, and I have one facility now. I'm super happy with it. And that was the biggest thing, right? Like, is this making me happy? Is 2 gyms making me happy? And definitely not. It's just, I don't think for me. I love one gym. It's been awesome since. The expenses are totally reduced. I spend more time on the floor now. So, cultivating the culture and the community is, a big part of what I do. But with that, I'm putting in a lot of hours. Fast forward to you guys. We started together midsummer. I was a month away from having a baby, and everything's been kind of mushed together. But one of the biggest things, and Keeler, you kind of opened my eyes to it, was, hey, look at your finances and look at what you're making monthly over the span of a year. And I remember you were just like, if you're billing monthly, you're not getting paid for 52 weeks out of the year. And I looked at it and I did the math, and I remember being in the office and I was like, telling my wife, I was like, babe, Business for Unicorns is like the best thing that's ever happened to me. You got to check this out. Like, look at these numbers. And she looked at them. She was like, wow, this is like really amazing. And it's just nothing I ever thought about, much like a lot of the things that you guys talk about. Which is why we're here. It made total sense. So,
Andy, can you just kind of spell that for our listeners who still bill monthly and they haven't heard of or thought about weekly or biweekly or every 4-week billing? Can you just do the rough case for why that's different?
Now correct me if I'm wrong, but the days in each month are different, and so some months there's going to be 31, other months there's going to be 30, and so the difference is less than 52 weeks. If I'm understanding it right, it's like 50 weeks, right? There's like 2 weeks there where you don't really get paid. But when you do bi-weekly, you get to take your rates and break them down to the week, and you end up getting your money's worth. So 52 weeks out of the year is what you bill for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you were so close. It's actually 4 weeks out of the year that you don't get billed for. So yeah, so a year has 52 weeks. And if you're billing just monthly, and you really are thinking of months being equal as being kind of four weeks long, it's only 48 weeks out of the year. And so if you're only billing monthly, there's a whole month of services that you're paying your team out for that you're not getting more money for. And so, especially for those of us who don't have unlimited services, this really matters for us. If we're paying per session and it's not just unlimited, that makes a big difference. And in fact, I think the math works out to be about 8% increase. If you move from monthly billing to biweekly or every 4-week billing instead of monthly, you immediately increase your income by 8% on the year. And so, yeah, it's a lot of money for most of us. And, it's something that for many of us, we just hadn't thought about before. But yeah, continue with your story. So you were like, oh, this math makes a lot of sense. What do I do next?
So yeah, we had the conversation, and then I had a conversation with Pete Dupuis, who is also a rock star with you guys. And just, it was more about, implementing and penning the email, right? 2017, I have a lot of members who've been with me for that long, and those members are friends. And so, now you start to think about, oh shoot, man, like these are my friends. Like, they're going to text me. I'm going to hear about it, rate increase, and I'm well aware of like what other gyms are charging around here. And we're a little bit more, rightfully so. We put out an awesome product and we take care of our members, and we're just awesome. But, they could easily go to somewhere else, and that wasn't beyond me as well, for cheaper. So yeah, I kind of had a rough draft, and Pete's biggest thing was, do this unapologetically. You don't have to say sorry for increasing rates. You don't have to be apologetic, right? He's like, think about it. Everything in your life is more expensive now. Your rent goes up every year. The mortgage, the cost of goods, the cost of doing business. It's just, everything's way more expensive, especially right now. He's pretty much said, why not you? And I think you said it too. Why aren't you doing that? And, I think that alone was like, all right, it was kind of a no decision at that point. It was just about doing it, getting it done, setting a goal date with him on, one, when the email was going to be done, right? Having that final draft just finished. And then 2, sending the email out. And 3, having enough time go by from the email to the actual rate increase for the members, to where people can kind of think about it and settle in with it. I think I gave them, like, my members, like, a 2-month notice after I sent the email out. I think I sent it out in late August, and November 1st was when December 1st was when our rate increase went.
Yeah. Yeah, great. I think you said a lot there, Andy, and I hope our listeners are taking notes, because I think, having a really clear, well-written email that's not apologetic is a great place to start, right? Because as Pete said, all of our prices go up every year. So every year that we don't increase our prices, we're making probably a little less profit, right? Because our rent goes up, our utilities probably go up, our staff wants to make more money, we want to make more money, right? Everything costs more. And so if we're not increasing our rates, then we're really kind of falling behind. And the fact that you wrote an email that you got some feedback on, I think is a great tip for people. Even if they don't have a coach, get someone else to read your email in advance. And give your clients some time to get used to the new changes, right? You don't tell them today that it's happening tomorrow, right? So you gave them time to really sit with it and understand. Amazing. Well, I'm going to come back to you with more questions, Andy, but I want to hear from you, Renee. What was your most recent experience like with trying to change your rates?
So something similar. We went to biweekly as well. And the numbers just made the most sense. The way our programming cycles go, a lot of gyms go on 2 and 4 week cycles, because 30 and 31 or 28 days, whatever the days of the month is, it doesn't fit that weekly cycle. So it was kind of a no-brainer for us, and it went way more seamless than I could have ever imagined. So we did increase slightly the rates, not much, but went to biweekly at the same time. And we sent this clear email. Again, we had a coach. In fact, you looked over my email and just made it really from the heart, and like laid out all these things, but also what services we are still able to provide and keep the quality up. We're a very small group. We only have 8 to 12 people in the class. So like it's something we want to keep and is special about us. And people stayed. We only had a few people email, and all of them stayed. We did give a few like 6-month transitions for a few people that, for some people it was COVID. We sent, if you have any issues with this, please reach out. We're a community place. We want to help. And we're in this together. But one of the really cool things that happened with it, and Andy touched on this, is we've been open since 2013. And I don't know how many people were still on some silly rates. Almost like it was like 8 years ago. And we just cleaned it all and made it all one. We're just like, we sent a mass email saying everyone's going to be here. We're going to do, everyone is going to this, no matter what you were on before. But reach out if you have any concerns, questions, or you want to talk about it. We only had like 2 reach out. And then a couple of them, I did give a few like 6-month like transitions, because one of them had, lost a job, and, we wanted people to still, feel like this is a community place, and we understood. So for those few people, we did give them, or even gave them just a discount for 6 months, and said, check in again. If something, if you can't afford it yet, reach out. But they were really not many cases. I was really surprised, not much backlash. And not like maybe one cancel in the whole thing.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And which is pretty great, actually, because I was like,
Yeah, I mean the universal experience of people who I've talked to in Unicorn Society, and this is true for NMFF as well, is that we all catastrophize how our rate change is going to go. We all think we're going to lose all our members. Everyone's going to be pissed at us. People are going to be texting us in the middle of the night, sending us death wishes, and none of that ever happens. But universally across the board, I see some very small percentage, 1, 2, maybe 3% of members who even have anything to say. They either are going to complain or ask for assistance. And I think that's one thing that I want to point out. You said, Renee, that I think is such a great best practice. Is to one, in the email you said, these are all the things that we can do because of this rate change, right? We're going to keep our classes small. We're going to do this and this and this, reinvest in our space, reinvest in our team. Right? These are the things that this rate change is helping us do. It's a great best practice. And you also said, if this is a struggle for you in some way, we're here to help, right? We don't let money get in the way of us continuing this relationship together. And so you can have in your back pocket something like Renee did, which is, I'll give you a 6-month extension. If you need another 6 months because you just lost your job, or this, just had a baby, or, whatever the case may be, money is tight right now, I'll give you an extension, 3 months, 6 months, whatever it is. I think that's such a great thing to have in your back pocket. Yeah. What else has you learned since? I know your rate change has been in place for a while. Anything else you've learned since?
I kind of wish I went a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I think I was a little too cautious and when I did it, because I was doing the biweekly change and the rate increase at the same time. And I actually wish I went a little bit bigger, which I would say is crazy to think about. But you mentioned like all your expenses go up. Like my rent alone goes up 3% every year.
Yep.
Like it's like automatic in my lease, and people don't realize how expensive everything is. And so I think being honest with everyone, and I don't think you should be too scared to make some. I mean, obviously, a huge, crazy departure might be a bit much, but I wish I was less scared because it went so well. And people were like, "We want to support you. We're so happy you're still here and open and providing the service. And you are something special and different. We're not Planet Fitness. We're not." A big box gym, and if they want cheap, they can go there, but we don't do cheap. So it's I think you just have to value your time, your and your community that wants to help you and support you as well. And we did some other changes during that as well to piggyback it. I went to flat rate to my coaches, my therapists. We do benefits. And I was able to do a lot of those things, which actually cut my expenses somehow. And at the same time gave more to my employees. So,
well, I think what's fascinating is when you are charging, the amount you should be on the front end, it makes other things in the back end much more possible, right? You can give things like in benefits or bonuses or rate increases to your team, or invest in your space in ways you couldn't have when, you couldn't have if you weren't charging the right rate for your services. And certainly to what your point earlier, Renee, is that if you were certainly had, rates people had for the last 6, 7, 8 years, you certainly weren't able to invest in the business the way you could if they're paying current market rates. So, I think it's a mistake I see most gym owners, including myself, that we made at MFF, is we had for a long period of time these founder rates, these grandfathered rates. We promised people their rate would never change. And I have yet to see a single gym who hasn't had to take that promise back, because it's just not one we should have made in the first place. But live and learn. It had good intentions. I'm going to go back to you, Andy, because Renee mentioned something that I know you've had some experience with yourself, which is part of this journey for you has been about learning to kind of value your own time. Can you just say more about what you've been learning there?
Yeah, and I'll kind of go back to the shutdown. When the gym closed and we weren't open for 4 weeks, and we lost half of our members. The bank accounts were slim, not only the gyms, but my own as well. And so I'd done all that work since 2017. And, at the time I was like, let me reinvest, that's the goal, reinvest, grow the thing, grow the machine. But at the end of the day, I wasn't paying myself what I should have. And so it was a big eye-opening moment for me, when we shut down. And, I promised myself after that, wherever playing fitness goes from here on out, like I have to think of myself first, and I have to think about, not only now me as, a husband, but now I had a kid too. So,
Yeah.
this is, while from the outside, it could just look like a fun gym job, you're a gym owner, this is awesome. Like, you got to pay yourself, and it is a grind, and it's hard, and they're long hours, and, there's ups and downs and hardships like any other job. So, you got to make your time worth it, and you have to, walk out of there every day knowing that, you're treating yourself financially fair, as well as the coaches that you hire.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons I think a lot of training gyms can get away with having rates that are too low is because the owner is not paying themselves well.
Yeah.
The owner's not paying themselves either at all or what they're worth. And I think, my best advice, and you both have heard this already, but for listeners, my best advice is that you as an owner should be paying whatever it would cost to replace yourself. You should be paying yourself whatever it would cost to replace yourself. So if tomorrow you need to just get someone to come in and do all of your training sessions and replace you as a manager, replace you as a CEO, how much you need to pay that person? And that should be your goal. That should be your goal. And certainly for those of you who run Profit First, we can get into the weeds about how Profit First suggests you do that, but it's very similar, right? That you should have a salary or some pay that is based on what it would cost to replace yourself to start with. And so that's a hard thing to figure out. Sometimes it takes a little research. Certainly in a group like Unicorn Society, we all have each other to be like, what are you all paying each other? How do you do that? But for those of you who don't have a group like that, you might need to either make some friends or do a little market research, because I think it's an important place to start. Yeah. Renee, I want to go back to something you said earlier, which was, before you were going to send out your rate change email, you had a lot of nerves about it, as many of us do. How did you deal with it, right? How did you deal with those nerves in a way that allowed you to kind of send the email anyway?
I mean, I had to reflect on exactly what you just talked about, to be honest. I still haven't paid myself what the worth is. I was in a position when I opened where I had another income as an athlete myself. And so I was like, the whole first 5 years, I'm pretty sure we made it just because I didn't have to pay myself, like you had said. And it's not sustainable, or it takes away the fun and I mean, your passion. You got it. Like, it's something that as an athlete, I know, but I wasn't applying it to my business side of my life. It's like you have a passion for something. It's like your goal in life to keep that lit. And you have to have balance. You've got to learn how to handle that stress, and surrounding yourself with people that you can talk to about it. Like the Unicorn Society, I've been with you, I think it's a full year and 2 days.
Yep.
So like, where I'm at my year anniversary, and I think it was like I could just send a message, and it was awesome having the Facebook page. But then, even relying on my staff more and having more team meetings, like I was failing on that front during COVID. Like, we just stopped all staff meetings, like everything stopped happening. And it's really important to keep that connection with your community, and your staff's community is like your inner community. And so like we're bringing that, even if it's Zoom, like you need to keep like that culture and like connection, that you're not just little separate bots, like they're just doing the program you wrote and go away and fly away, but you're creating something more out of it and developing, and you guys have each other, and that creates something that's even more powerful in a way. So I have my exterior community here of owners and professionals, but then even the community I've been building, like, so all of them like had a little bit of say in it as well, and had investment. And I think it made my team closer. I think it helped me just take that deep breath and be like, we're going to be okay. And it's not sustainable if you're stressed all the time and you're paying everyone else first, which I still do, but I'm working on it. And I have the opposite problem of Andy, is I say yes too much and I'm on the floor too much. So I'm trying to come off the floor a little bit and look at the bigger picture, because it's hard. The COVID, that's one thing Andy really pointed out, is like that shutdown helped us step back for a second. Because once you open, it's like, go, go, go. And you have like these 80 bazillion big picture things that I still have stuff from before I opened was on my to-do list. And so I think it's making sure you make time for the big picture and surround yourself, be able to delegate the things. And I learned all of that throughout this, even with the price increase, and it comes all together, like, because I had a team to help me.
Yeah. Well, I think what I hear you say here, which I think is such a great takeaway and lesson for our listeners to grapple with, is that, as a business owner, it can feel really lonely at the top, right? And the support system that you build around yourself, both externally with programs like Business of Unicorns and Unicorn Society, but also internally, your team, and learning how to delegate, learning how to lean on them, learning how to leverage their ideas and their opinions and their expertise for all kinds of things, for things like price increase, conversations. Excuse me. And I think, that network, that support system you have as an owner, I think means everything. Right? I think it's so crucial that you don't feel like you're alone in the driver's seat, that everyone has some stake in it. And you feel like when times do get tough and you are stressed, that you have some people to lean on, that you're writing a really difficult rate change email. Okay, can I rely on some people on my team to help review this? Do I have clients that I lean on to help review my emails and reality check my ideas? And then certainly you can have external coaches and colleagues out in the field who also can be helpful. But I think it's a really important point, Renee. In fact, it's a big part of why we started Business for Unicorns and Unicorn Societies, because Mark and I wanted more of that ourselves. We wanted, more people we could lean on and, reality test our ideas and give us feedback and benchmark against. And so I think that's really useful. All right, friends. Well, let me start to wrap this up, because we could keep talking all day about different things, but I'm going to ask you each this question. So here it is. If you had just kind of one piece of advice for our listeners about increasing their rates, and it can be increasing their rates, just their existing rates, or switching to a different kind of billing, like biweekly or every 4-week billing, what's the one piece of advice you would give them for increasing their rates and charging more? I'm going to start with you, Andy. What's the piece of advice you want to leave our listeners with?
The piece of advice is to recognize and be very adamant on your worth, and kind of just put that at the top of your, I guess, like New Year's resolution list.
Sure.
Kind of just reformulate how much you think you're worth, not only to others, but to your business. And I think that'll go a long way, especially when you then, second piece of advice is to do the numbers, and kind of write it out and look at projections, and, look at, the biggest thing for me, again, going back to, I did the math, my current membership times what the rate was times 12. And then I broke it down bi-weekly, and it was just like fireworks went off in my brain. And so I think, seeing that and doing the math and putting it on paper really, really helped. So I would say do that.
Yeah, I think those are great, both ones. So, the first one is know your worth and actually get clear about it. Write it down, make sure it's known, and put it at the top of your priority list. And 2 is know your numbers, right? Because if you know your worth but don't know your numbers, you're not going to have any way to get there, right? So you have to know, how to actually make the sausage if you're actually going to pay yourself what you're worth and what you want to make. So, those are great ones. Renee, what would you say?
I actually want to say ditto to that, but it's the numbers were big for me. I have a degree in math, so you'd think I would have already done that many times. I know I'm actually great at spreadsheets. It's not even a problem for me. But like I said, I got on the floor so much that I wasn't doing some of the stuff. Or leaving enough time. But one of the things that really hit home for me and a lot of our conversations in the beginning is really your staff should, if you really need to, know your full expenses, like all of them. Literally, you should be looking at those every month and trying to minimize what's not working, what's costing you money that's not bringing money in. And then that number is really your staff should be making only 40, maybe 50% max, because if you don't realize how much your expenses really are, and you're not actually taking money home. And I think talking to your staff about that, making it clear in these emails that you are doing this because you want to survive and keep doing this service, having reasons, as well as the quality of not being like a blinder on it, being real, and your people will appreciate it if you're being honest and real, and then showing them what you can give them still. That's what mine really valued the most, and I think why it went over so well. And so I'd say you don't need to have this hide it from, you don't need to show them your books, but but be real about it. So I think that's what's special and can make it go over better.
That's great, Renee. What I'm hearing there is just the value of transparency. And frankly, that transparency goes, there's multiple audiences, right? Transparency with yourself, to be honest with yourself about what are your expenses right now. Because if you really get honest about what your expenses are and what they probably should be, that might be enough motivation to do a rate increase, right? If you're really get real with yourself about how much you're spending on your people and your stuff, and and you've really done your best to get rid of all the extras, all the fluff, then you might be honest with yourself that you really need to increase your rates. I think the second bit of transparency you mentioned there was the transparency to your team and your clients, to not necessarily you have to open your books to them, to get clear about why a rate increase really matters, why being competitive in the marketplace matters, and what's in it for them and what's in it for the business. So I think those are great tips. And if you can center your rate increase communications on that idea of transparency, there's kind of no way to lose. If you're being honest with yourself and with your team and your clients, our parents told us honesty is the best policy. And I have to agree that when it comes to this, it really remains pretty true. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing this, my friends. It was such a blast. I know we only got to talk about one topic, but I'm sure I'll have you all back again from the roundtable. We can talk about more topics, but thanks for sharing your stories on rate increases. We're recording this in the holiday season, so I'll say happy holidays, my friend. Happy New Year.
Holidays.
Thanks, Renee. Thanks, Andy.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.
Well, I hope you loved today's podcast. And forgive me, I want to remind you one more time, if you haven't already done so, head over to businessofunicorns.com, click the button, and get your free self-assessment, the ultimate training gym owner report card. I promise you're going to want to dig into this resource and get the support you need, finding crystal clarity on exactly where you need to be focusing to create a life and a business you love.